those changes that the county board is going to be making on their funding streams coming here?
Our understanding is that they are going to be launching a notice of funding availability sort of
Right.
similarly.
It's going to be like us, yeah.
Yeah, so we're, we keep saying, let's talk just to make sure we're not duplicative because, a lot of it is the same kinds of projects. I think they tend to fund more ongoing stuff because they really are funding, homeless services centers and things that really do need the ongoing funding. So maybe that's kind of where we'll.
Well, those contracts are not part of that either.
Right, because those are
already RFP based. It was more like the kind of the projects that people go and like the Bugatti, the 50,000 for Bugatti. We have a purview over that, but I think it's funded through the general fund. I think that would be subject to that new effort.
Maybe, yeah, that's in the base budget, so that doesn't, right, so probably it would be. I mean, I think that the county board is really hoping to kind of implement this kind of process more in a lot of the funding that the Department of Human Services gets, and they get several million a year, that tends to be just awarded to kind of legacy organizations without any sort of competitive process. So that's the context for that. They're really looking at kind of implementing something like this for those projects.
Right.
And actually, another fun fact, we recently learned they're also going to be implementing there's a food security strategic plan that the county has adopted last year that came out of COVID. Really cool coalition of food providers, county restaurants, grocery stores, just sort of really look at what were the issues with food security during COVID and how do they continue. So there's a whole big strategic plan, and as part of that, they're going to be launching actually a notice of funding availability with some funding for that. So again, important to coordinate just because we do fund some food stuff too. So we just want to make sure that, if we have all these different pots that what we're funding is actually not duplicative and meets our goals.
I was curious about that 50,000 for you.
It just sort of happens.
So I think that would become subject to that new process that they want.
Right.
Okay. Got it.
Yes, thank you so much. Drive safe.
Thanks.
Oh, no, wait, he's not on the committee, though. We have a quorum, we're good.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. That covers item 1 or item 2.
It's kind of both.
Item 3, or we're done with item 3.
They're kind of interrelated. So, I mean, the budget recommendations are included in the action plan, and the action plan includes the budget recommendations. So, yeah, I think if there aren't any other questions, you guys can vote. The action would be to recommend approval of the action plan by the county board.
A motion to recommend the action plan.
Second.
So, the action plan is approved.
Great.
Is that right?
Recommend approval. Yeah.
Right. And I will write Caitlin, you talked about this, so we have a letter that we will recommend
I will send you.
approval, and then
What's the deadline before the 22nd?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the county board will act on this on the 22nd. So we will.
we'll do
I'll
it.
send you a draft. We'll quick send a letter. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and Laura also went to the work session and commented, I think, on
Yeah, and
recommendations.
we had a pretty easy job, which was, hey, we recommend what we're hearing, and thanks for the support. Was pretty much the message from SIGSAC.
The county board really defers to you all on this. I mean, Tim, I don't know if you found that. You usually just get the thanks so much for doing this, and we're going to approve whatever you recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we used to have to go, I don't know, can't really remember. A lot of time has passed, I guess, since we really did that in person, but there used to be a working session, and they would break it up by committee. So, they have it over like a 4-day period, and 4 different tranches of committees would come in, usually into this room. But then we had opportunities to actually speak in front of the county board manager. But I did always find them very deferential, and whatever we write in the letter is usually adopted. That's why I think this is a great committee to be a part of, because you
actually do have an influence.
Maybe we're missing out on a bet by not
Yeah. We want more money.
Yeah, that's right, more money.
No, I mean, one of you all had suggested the additional, we asked for additional aid. It's a brilliant idea, so thanks.
Next item is, I think we are welcoming Matt Fitzgerald. He's gonna give us some CSBG
Words of wisdom.
updates and program priorities.
Do you want me to like tell them your story, or do you want to? So many of you have met Matt. He actually works for the state office and was our program monitor for a long time, and has since been promoted to an office that has since reshuffled, and it's now called the Office of Economic Opportunity. So Matt is the director of that and oversees a bunch of the cool stuff that the state does, including the Community Action Program, which those of you who have been around for a while know that we are the Community Action Agency for Arlington. So Matt's here to tell us stuff. Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you for having me. I am here mainly because I'm in DC for a conference. And I've been going around the state just meeting with different boards. And as Jennifer was saying, I took on a new role. The Office of Economic Opportunity has the CSBG State Office, which administers community action agencies. They have the Neighborhood Assistance Program, which is tax credits to nonprofits to increase their fundraising through tax credits to the donor. And we have like a whole lot of kind of miscellaneous programs that tie a lot into community action, but aren't necessarily always funded through it. They're mainly around things like tax preparation so that we can create assets for families, financial empowerment broadly. And we're doing a lot of work to try to create some toolkits. So, since the pandemic, we have seen a lot of different issues in agencies, boards, just kind of burnout and all the kind of things that come with the service that you give to your community. And I've just been going around kind of trying to get a feel for how boards are doing and share some information from our office, to talk about kind of some of the things that are going on in our office specifically and in the state, just get some feedback from you. So this is, I don't mean to take up a whole lot of your time, just wanted to take the opportunity to be able to meet with you and kind of talk. So that's my purpose.
So CAGs, are we the only or one of maybe only two that is not a nonprofit, right? Most of them are nonprofits that handle affairs for a specific region, like Skyline does kind of the Charlottesville area. We're somewhat unique in that we're a county appointed. Is that correct?
Correct. There's 6. So you're considered a public cap, which means it's usually situated within the local government. You're one of 6.
Oh, there's 6.
Yeah, there's 6. There's 3 in Northern Virginia. It's you, Alexandria, and Fairfax. And then there's CAPSAW, which is kind of a unique cap. They're in the Stanton, Augusta, Waynesboro area. They really only have one employee, who's the ED, but she coordinates the work in those 3 counties through a bunch of sub-recipients, basically grants out all the funds. And then there's Powhatan and Goochland counties in the Richmond area, which are public caps run directly out of the DSS. So yes, you're very unique in that public caps have a whole lot of different things. Advisory committee, more so as a board, work a lot of times done through subrecipients. There's differences in the organizational standards. The requirements are very different. Financial expectations are different. You don't have the same governance responsibilities.
How many CAGs are there across the Commonwealth?
Total community action agencies. So there's technically 28 that are considered real eligible entities, actual community action agencies, 22 private nonprofits, 6 publics. And then there's 3 what are considered statewide organizations. They're not technically community action agencies, but they receive the 5% discretionary funds that come to the state. They're Project Discovery, which
HC does.
Project Discovery, which does high school students going to college, doing care for that. Virginia Cares, which is working with returning citizens, which I know y'all have OAR, right? So they're aligned with them, but not the same program. And then SIRCAP, which is water, wastewater. So those 3 aren't technically community action agencies, but they're part of the network. They primarily work within other community action agencies. Their program is run by other community action agencies.
Don't we have a Discovery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our Project Discovery program is run by HC.
Right.
So that's how we participate in that one. We don't participate in either the CERCAP or,
Any cares?
thank you, because we have the water is really not an issue here for us. I mean, we do a lot with wastewater and sewage, and then OAR, really, we got to give them funding to do a lot of the recidivism, incarceration stuff.
I actually work with CERCAP in my day job. Because I work for, I'm a contractor for the Office of Community Services. Who offers,
Do you work with Hope?
No.
Oh.
No, but they have a grant that goes to CERCAP for wastewater. Interesting.
Yeah, CERCAP is probably the most unique of the three statewide because they do work not only in Virginia, I think they're in 8 other states,
Yeah.
but they do work statewide and they do a lot of building water, wastewater systems, but they also give loans out. So there's probably like people in your community that work with them more so.
And they work very rural too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we work closely with all of them. And a cool thing about being part of a community action agency is that we have frequent meetings and we're different, but we're similar in a lot of ways. And we can talk about issues around the state and we communicate quite a lot with the other public caps. So it's a good network.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always try to look for opportunities, but it is hard. And we, if there is anything that you come up with as a board, I have a list of a couple of things from Cap Law that maybe you've already seen, but they're trainings that were created by them for public caps. So I can share those with y'all. And then I just wanted to cover a couple of the projects that are going on. These, I understand that your situation, you might not prioritize this because you give money directly to specific agencies or do work within, but I wanted you to be aware of kind of what's going on. I think some of them will touch you anyway. One of the major issues, I'm situated in the Virginia Department of Social Services, and there's been many programs that have ended. CARES funding ending, or public health emergencies ending on 5/11, and SNAP has been cut back. Several programs like that. So we're seeing a lot of issues with people in the community contacting that we're getting services that don't realize they're not going to get those services anymore or don't understand why. So we're having a lot of those kind of issues with different agencies. I don't have a solution for it, just saying that it's a major issue and that trying to figure out what kind of ways. One thing that's going on in CSBG right now is that they've increased the percentage that you can serve with the funding to 200% right now, and we're hoping that goes permanent because honestly, kind of the issues around benefits cliff and working with people that reach a certain level and can't continue to get services. 200% at least gives you more flexibility to work with folks. But right now,
What is 200% of the federal poverty level?
like what number is it at right now? Or
maybe explain what that means and what the number is.
Yeah, it's a number generated by HHS, and it's based on what the median income is in an area, and at 200%, you would be at that. So it's usually right around $45,000, $50,000 for 200%. Way lower for a 125, probably in the 30,000 range. So you end up with folks that really, if you were to get a better job or something like that, you would end up not being able to access services at 125%. More services to deliver.
So our CSBG programs tend to be the ones that we use to fund programs that serve really low income people because it's way lower than like CDBG.
Right, exactly. CDBG is 80% of
Area median income, which is,
and so we're hoping the 200% continues. Right now, it's only continued because they included it in the Appropriation Act this year. They're trying to get CSBG reauthorized at the federal level, but right now, reauthorization is tough. There's been a lot of changes currently to like chairmanships and things like that. So trying to figure out how that reauthorization will go. A couple things though that are going on in the state. Right now, there's a pilot project 6 different agencies are working on. It's called the Whole Family Pilot Project. And those 6 agencies have hired a family coach or mentor that work with 10 to 15 families specifically to deliver intensive services to all members of the family. They do this life assessment test, develop goals with the family, and then work with a bunch of community partners to deliver services. This is definitely going to be something, it ends, we have 1 more year of the pilot, but the network is seeking funds to advance whole family broadly. So the issue around whole family will be probably the #1 network issue for the next 5 years, the community action network in the state. Trying to figure out ways to find available funding and advance the concept of whole family. So I know, you have grantees that you work with or other organizations, the way that you do funding, which you can do any way you want to. But I think the availability of funding around whole family will be a lot more. So considering agencies that use that kind of model in the future, maybe an avenue for you to get additional funding. The Virginia Community Action Partnership, which is your state association, is seeking specifically additional funding for whole family for the network. So I don't know if y'all have partners already that y'all work with, that you kind of model the whole family
I mean,
concept.
yes, but maybe you could say a little bit more about what the whole family concept is.
Yeah, I mean, it's two parts. It's philosophy. Like, it's the whole agency changes what they do. They don't work with silos. Programs aren't listed as programs, really. They talk across and share data across and make sure that the families that they work with have access to things like social capital and trying to consider holistically the way you work. So like your data programs wouldn't work with an individual program. They would do work with each individual family to cross them across to everything that you do. It's more like conceptual, but there are individual elements like the family coaching and mentoring that are kind of cornerstones that we are trying to start with because they make entry into it a little easier. You know, if you're able to have a specific thing that does that whole family concept working to attach someone to a bunch of different services, that gives you an entry into it instead of looking at revamping everything your agency does, which would be about a 10-year process. So that's kind of the hard concept is trying to figure out which side Virginia wants to go towards as a network, because everybody wants to get immediate funds to do something specific, you know, hire a person to do data entry or whatever it might be, instead of kind of revamping everything. So broadly, it's a philosophy about changing the way you're able.
And the philosophy is really that poverty is generational. So
Absolutely.
you can't just, work with the parents or the kids or whatever. So we actually, those of you who did the CD tour last year, remember we went to Gillian Place, which is APA, Affordable Housing Development. And they're actually a great example of a whole family approach because, they have their resident services programs that serves adults and kids. They also have the La Cocina program where, entrepreneurs can learn how to create cooking businesses, or you can learn how to work in a restaurant. And then they also have Aspire there, which works with kids after school. So they really look at sort of all the different ways they can serve families. So I think that's kind of what, the way we do that is we work with different sub-recipients, but a lot of them are really going in that direction, that really you're not just serving this person in the family.
Right. No, that's a great example. Another kind of difference about it is sometimes when you have an agency and someone comes in and says, I want to get project discovery as a service, they come into the project discovery door and talk about getting that individual service. In a whole family agency, you come in and get assessed as a family and develop all of your goals, which is multiple things you want to do, and then you get directed towards all the different things you need to do. So you're not coming into a program, coming in and being assessed for all the things you need. And the multitude of them, probably 80% usually, is not offered by the agency that you come in. They're going to have to attach you to community partners. Limited number of services. And the other big thing that the pilot project has showed is one of the number one services families can't access is mental health. They come into the agency and that's, trauma is one of their major issues that is causing them to have the situation they have. So attaching them to mental health services is something the pilot project has been great to do, which we don't usually have.
I may have missed this, but is it administered through like a case manager?
They call them, so this pilot project specifically, it was a limited amount of funding, so each agency got about $160,000. So the requirement we made for the project was they had to hire a family coach or mentor. And that family coach or mentor could not do anything else. So it couldn't just be another staff member that had like a caseload. They would attach this to it. That family coach works explicitly with 10 to 15 families. And they work in a cohort. So basically those 6 coaches meet monthly. We have a program manager that kind of leads them through these meetings, and they talk about the things that they're encountering and try to figure out solutions to it. So it's about the work itself with working with families, but it's also going to be an evaluation at the end that says like some of these practices led to. We're hoping it'll give us some, do we want to do something else with family coaches specifically going forward?
So they would all family, all members, and figure out where, instead of having them tell you where they think they need help, you have where they have gaps or they have issues.
Actually, the other way around. So you sit down with them and it's a life assessment tool. And you go through like a matrix and you talk about like with your housing situation, where are you at? And they talk about where they want to be. And so they set goals for themselves, and then you talk to them about what available services there are and where they would go. And then you kind of mentor them in the process, so like if credit, they need to build credit, tell them where the resources are and help encourage them and call them and, kind of mentor and coach them more. And there's been a lot of, they've done a couple of lived experience panels where some of the families have talked about, the work, and they said that what most impressed them and made them feel good about it was they felt respected and like they were part of the process. So it's been real successful, but it started literally February 2020. So like there was a lot of, I would say, there's some lost time that, we couldn't do exactly, the coaches couldn't do exactly what they wanted because they were in situations that were in their homes and things. Yeah. And so, but I mean,
some of you may be familiar with, about 5 years ago, Arlington started the Bridges Out of Poverty project. I think they came and spoke to you about that at some point. But it was sort of coordinated by the Arlington Community Foundation, and they brought in all those safety net organizations and used a similar model and worked with, I want to say, 100 families to do that and to really try to sort of break down the bureaucratic gates and to get people to services. And I think they've done some reporting out and have found also that it's successful. And then last year they tied a universal basic income pilot to that. So those families got, I want to say, $500 a month for a year or something. And they're starting to look at the data for that. And they're finding that that's, I think data is showing that kind of a small amount of support can make a huge difference for a family, especially when you tie the supports around it.
How are you dealing with the whole concept of people on Medicaid now, since the mandate is gone, that there's going to be people not being held to Medicaid? Are you dealing with that too, or that's something that you don't touch?
When you say dealing with it, I think
Well,
the agencies are dealing with the effects of it, but they don't have any solution to it. I mean, it's a great question because I think the problem is that you have folks that were counting on that didn't realize unless, the agency did a good job of notifying those resources won't be there. So you have folks that are calling and saying, I used to be able to get this and now I can't. So I wish I could say that we were dealing with it. I don't think there's no backfill to it. Yeah, absolutely. And same with SNAP.
So, just a comment, someday in the future, if we ever decide to add questions to our NOFA, a good question might be, how does your program support this whole family model? Maybe not in the formal sentence, but like in the, how will your program serve the whole family? How will you address the issues of the whole family, not just an individual? And hopefully that model becomes more of a known approach, a known model that programs like this will understand.
Yeah, that's a good idea to include it because I think language-wise, this is one thing where we've had conversations and it's probably one of the resonates the most with people because it makes the most sense. Like we have a lot of programs that do Head Start. If you have a child, but the father has substance abuse, obviously the child's going to have a good, stable home. So providing Head Start is great, but it's really not much success with the family. And that resonates easily. One of the other projects that's going on in the state, this is, there's always this, seems like you can find money for broadband implementation around, public-private partnerships and trying to expand maybe the access to broadband with some kind of, maybe you'll have some other Wi-Fi options or something. The provider might offer something. One of the things that is usually an issue is the people that serve, the people that work with, there's an equity issue about access to the services more so than just the availability, either cost or equipment or whatever reason there is equity-wise. Language barrier or something like that might be an issue. So there's a current broadband planning project going on in the state that's being led through community actions. Community action agencies are doing the actual planning process. And it's to find equity issues so that when they do the next implementation round, which there's tons of money coming down the road, hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to be put in for the next year or so, they have some kind of idea of the specific issues of the clients that community action works with. So that's going to be going on through like July. I don't know what it looks like in your community. This is being run by DHCD, but I do know that there should be like community meetings and focus groups and key informant interviews and all that kind of stuff going on. So we're just asking all community action agencies to support the process as much as possible, get the word out about it, make sure that the meetings are advertised to your clients, things like that. I'll have to look to see
So
specifically.
Caitlin can speak to that. She's
Okay.
actually one of the key staff on the broadband stuff we're doing in
Oh,
the
great.
county.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk a little bit about that. So we actually looked at doing one of the planning grants through the CA through the state. It didn't it didn't really work out because we're actually undergoing a major broadband study currently at the county level, where we're in the process of putting together a needs assessment where we contracted with a third-party consultant, and then they're going to be looking at various models for broadband deployment to support the findings from the needs assessment. So that's currently ongoing. So the staff that we consulted with from the state didn't feel like it was that we were already kind of 2 steps ahead of the game on that piece. But there's, I guess, another grant program that we're considering applying for that will allow us to implement a pilot project. And the thing that we're the project that we're planning to propose is the library, central library recently implemented a telehealth hub in the library. So individuals who might not have a secure place in their home or have access to the internet at home will be able to come and do access a secure room that has secured connection to be able to do a telehealth appointments. And it's actually been utilized a lot by members of the public. And so we're looking to expand that to Arlington Mill. And so we're going to be putting in an application for that in the next couple weeks.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
All right, a couple of other really quick ones. We have a learning management system for our office. It's called Learn Worlds. I don't know if all of you are already in Learn Worlds. It's a free system. You just sign up with an account. It has a whole bunch of trainings in it. It has specifically Roma for boards, which I think is a great thing for you to access. There's one for regular, nonprofit, and then there's ones for public.
You mean nonprofit and regular?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That was better. It sounded wrong as soon as I said it, but yeah, there's trainings in there, and then there's also like peer groups. So there's a board peer group that has a lot of different board members and board chairs from all across the state. It kind of has a distribution list, and you can share back and forth questions. So it's a resource that we have for all of our trainings and a bunch of other things that we put in there and training opportunities. So if you aren't already in there, I would say make sure you get in that system.
Now, is that for individuals or
Yeah.
that's for the agency?
It's for any individuals too. There's board members in there, there's staff from agencies, there's EDs. from
Just
agencies.
how do you do outreach for that? I mean, how is it for people? That's in my case, I didn't know about it, so what would I have needed to go there? Who do I tell that I need this?
We send it out through our network, so it probably would have gone to the staff, I would think. So it's usually, we have a program manager that sends out like a newsletter, and so it has all that information. And also, if you're not on the newsletter, that's the other one that we can make sure you get registered for, because that we do a monthly newsletter from our office that talks about all the things that our office is doing and any funding opportunities like that.
Jennifer, can that information be sent to all?
Yeah, I mean, I
of us?
guess let me know what you like. We don't want to spam you guys because we
No.
get lots of stuff from lots of funders. So if you're interested in either being the Learn
Just
World or the
individually
monthly
for-
newsletter,
for
yes, let us
deciding.
know. We're happy to forward.
So those two tools, we recently did a board training that was regional, again, nonprofit, but there was, many Arlington folks came. There were some public boards. Alexandria did. There were several folks from Alexandria. And they were real engaged. So I think, like we might offer that again. It was a regional training that we basically it is a full day. I understand. Yeah, everybody has lots going on. So a full day is a long training. But it was based on like giving specific examples at table work beyond just governance, conversation around community action, so that you could talk about specific issues with other board members. So, I mean, we could maybe consider doing something, a shorter one that would be like a public cap board meeting, so y'all could talk with other public cap board members, if that would be something you're interested in. So we could look to develop
It's always positive, so that you're, I mean, I don't see anything negative to that.
If nothing else, we could do it for you, Fairfax, and Alexandria, because then it would be pretty consolidated, you know, if others wanted to come up. Great.
We did that a number of years ago.
Yeah,
Were you
I think
here
we
then?
did.
I think we did. We did a training over in Fairfax. It was.
Yeah, we did do something. It's been quite a few years. So.
Since we can't even remember what we did.
Yeah,
But it was
exactly.
really good.
I know I came and talked to, I don't remember how many, but I know that there's opportunity, because this was our former director that like developed a really nice curriculum. So like we could develop something very nice for you and do it in a specific time, so it's worth your time, and not 6 or 8 hours. That's something we would like to do. So those are the main issues that I wanted to bring up. I mean, I was pretty interested in, I would love to, if Bridges Out of Poverty had a report or something out of the work that they did, or that UBI, I would love to see that. The number one thing going on in our office right now is we have 2 vistas, 2 AmeriCorps vistas that are working in our office. And
There is a report.
It is a report?
I'm
Okay,
actually
great.
looking at it right now. It says, view the 200 Bridges pilot program started by Arlington County DHS, Arlington Community Foundation, the 13-slide presentation. Yeah.
Love to see that, thank you. We have 2 AmeriCorps vistas that are serving right now. One is working on DEI, and so that person, there's a actual racial equity committee that works in the network, and that racial equity committee is unstaffed. You know, it's basically a couple of EDs that put a lot of time and effort in. So we've got this vista to basically support the network. So she's going to be working on a bunch of different issues related to DEI, especially around trying to support as much as possible incorporating into existing processes like collection of data and reporting items that would help to inform racial inequities, you know, going on in communities that tie directly to equitable practices. So that's something that Vista will be doing. And the second one is Vista is working on financial empowerment. So he's developing a toolkit for basically what you were mentioning, I think, around the concept of moving towards generational wealth. He's already done some research and like looked at, you know, the regular financial literacy / education pieces that some people do, budgeting and, you know, credit building and things like that, which are super important. And there's a bunch of good tools from CFPB on that. But his interest is more in moving towards the concept of generational wealth, a longer term building process so that the generation has something. So he's got, you know, a lot of work to do with that. Things with agencies. I don't know if y'all have anybody that you would recommend that he talked to. He's got 6 folks lined up so far for interviews, and we sent out a survey, so I don't know if y'all have already filled that in. But we're looking for input on anything related to work that's going on related to financial empowerment, which is a pretty broad topic, but everything from financial literacy and education all the way to asset building. Those are major initiatives.
Seems like some of those homeownership programs that we hear about promoting, you know, first-time homeownership and low, moderate income homeownership.
Yes, like home ownership counseling
Yeah.
is one of the ones that does use some of the types of things within it. And like the problem is that every program is kind of different, and everybody goes to, you know, certain areas. Some might do just budgeting, some might go to more intensive credit counseling. And like we even heard recently, there were folks that were doing credit building, and they wanted to track whether or not they were having success, so they were running credit checks, which was actually hurting the person's credit. So like those kind of issues, it's better if we can learn about stuff like that so we can try to figure out what you would do.
Can you talk at all about individual development accounts and sort of how people are using those? Because we never have, and I've always been sort of curious about how agencies use those to help build wealth.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the problems that I used to work at DHCD, who administers the individual development accounts. There was a freeze a few years back that kind of shunted the program. Traditionally, what's done with it is it's an 8-to-1 match. Somebody invests $1, They get $8 in return that they can use on usually things like transportation, childcare, job supports primarily, things like things that will help them support and advance to self-sufficiency in theory. And so they get this bank account through DHCD that enables them to do the saving. And then, they have some specific requirements they have to meet, like if the goal is towards advancing in their job, they might have to do some specific job training. Again, as part of the individual development council. The problem is that there's not a ton of them anymore. The access to them is less, but there is a program right now that we've been working on for 2 years. That person came to VACAP one time, this is through TANF funds. And so they made these funds available and they wanted to do individual development accounts that expanded some of the allowable uses for the fund to be almost more like UBI, to be honest. And so that thing's been 2 years getting built, and I just got an email like 2 days ago that they're like, we're finally ready to roll this out. So I'll be sending out some more information soon. It would be the same kind of concept, though. It would be you identify a specific client, you have set up a bank account with them, and then they have some specific requirement related to the type of whatever they would do. So that was the major things I wanted to bring up. I don't know if there's any other things you want me to. I would love to hear later after y'all have more thoughts on things we could do. I mean, I'd love to do that training I talked about, or anything we can do to support.
Oh, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I learned a lot.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Matt. Laura, did you want to move on to Chair's report?
Yeah, I think that was us for our main agenda item tonight.
I was gonna pick your brain. I have a kid for an internship.
Okay, sounds good.
I have a couple of things for Chair's report. You remember what they are. As you can probably guess by the number of people in the room, we have 4 vacancies on the committee. One of them is a general interest vacancy, so.
Who represents or who dropped?
Who was our general interest?
I think it was
Nicole.
I was not able to participate anymore.
So if you guys know anyone who would be interested, do some recruiting, talk it up, talk about what good work you do, what, how worthwhile it is, and encourage them to apply. I guess we also have 2 low-income interest vacancies. One that we're hoping to fill through Buckingham, and then a vacancy through the liaison with the tenant landlord commission.
So how many members we have now? 9?
11. So our goal is to get 6 people in the room every month. Keep that in mind.
So we have 11. We were allotted 15, or did we change it?
I think it's 13, right?
Changed it to 13.
It's 15 now, but we also Mike Tully also had to step down from the committee.
Okay.
I thought we had.
I'm sorry.
It was originally 19, I think. Right, Caitlin?
Yeah,
I think
it was 19. Yep.
And then we moved it to 15.
And I thought we went down to 13.
I thought we did too. Are we 15, Caitlin?
Yeah, there's 5 people or 5 slots in each category.
Yes, it's 15.
So we've got 11.
There is a requirement that you have 5 reads.
Yes, I think it was 15. But that's a.
That's a high number.
Are any other committees or commissions having similar?
Human
challenges?
rights.
Yeah.
It seemed, I don't remember pre-COVID having, we always had challenges, but we had challenges because we had this 19-person in position, it was just too much. But we were pretty good for a period of time at 15. It would seem as though post-COVID, though, things have changed.
Yeah,
And they're changing every committee, but we have the same problem with human rights.
Yeah, exactly. I know economic development, I actually just had to roll And my work, I have a standing meeting now, so there's vacancies in economic development as
The Tenant
well.
Landlord Commission too has several.
Yeah,
It's
there's
interesting.
vacancies as well as transportation.
I heard a rumor you might be interested in tenant landlord.
No, I'm on transportation.
We got multiple people do the same thing, so
I will start talking up every
Yeah.
committee.
really,
Good one,
Caitlin,
so
Better
is
pick one.
it worth maybe raising this to the county board to say, hey, look, like, everybody have problems here. What do they suggest? And maybe if there was more flexibility in the mode that people could participate, but I mean, if it's just us having a problem, okay.
It's not.
It's
across
not.
the town.
Pretty
And
wide.
the public meeting rules are dictated by the state of Virginia. We
Yeah.
don't really have a lot of
And do
control
you all
over that.
find it frustrating that you have to come in person?
It can be an inconvenience, especially with people with families. Like I have a friend who has a young child and he can't be here now, right? Like this
Yeah.
period of time, he has to go
Yeah.
home and make dinner and do something. It's kind of silly to impose this restriction.
Totally get it.
It doesn't serve any real purpose, in my opinion.
But that's always a problem we've had, and even pre-COVID, even 10 years ago. We're 19, but everybody made an effort. I think COVID has changed our mindset that we could do it online and it's easy and we can have quorums and we can vote, but we can't do any of that anymore. So people don't want to be members, be part of commissions. And I don't know how they are in any of the counties. I don't know if the state doesn't realize the problems everybody's having with commissions.
There was a lot of hard lobbying. I don't know if you can speak to that, so to change the public meeting rules in the state. I don't know if you were looped into that, Matt.
I don't think that, I think there are some ways that you can enact specific bylaws changes to allow for a hybrid. But you do have to check with the FOIA Advisory Council to make sure that the methods meet. So it's a lot
Yeah.
of making it accessible to.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no problem.
Yeah,
I was just
we've
gonna-
been twisting ourselves into all kinds of pretzels. This is where we are, so.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that in Arlington, the hybrid meetings are now required for all meetings. So we have to offer both an in-person and virtual option.
But the problem with that is the whole quorum issue. You can't
The
have,
quorum is the issue, yes.
you can't vote hybrid if you have all your members online and you can't have that meeting then. I mean, you can have the meeting without any business talk, I guess. So what do you have?
Around and chat.
Right.
Which is fun.
So what?
All right, Jim's big action oriented. I like that.
This is a bit of a, not radical idea, I don't have that much creativity, but what if you had different types of members? Where we had 9 like official members, you had 6 that were rotating or whatever, and we shifted based on people's schedules. So 1 month, I'm a voting member or whatever. Another month, because I can't make it, somebody else takes that role, that responsibility, becomes a voting member. It would decrease the quorum requirement, right?
Right.
Then you get down to like 5. Maybe that's a little more reasonable. I don't know, but I'm thinking like some sort of rotating assignment where we try to have 12 to 15 members.
I can predict what the county attorney's office will say to that, but I mean, it's worth bringing up.
Which
And but
is-
you guys are unique also in that you have to do this tripartite thing. So you have to have like a third of these different kinds of members. So, which is an added complication that y'all have that none of the other
Maybe
commissions
the
do.
county attorney's office can help us recruit. Maybe they got some ideas on how we can do that.
The county attorney's office is helping, it's not usually there.
It
There-
seems like they need
Forte.
a countywide marketing campaign to get people.
But that's been the problem with
Well, and
every
board members
commission.
tend to be pretty good about recruiting when they're out in the community, but we can certainly, if you want to raise it to the board, who's our board caucus? And I think you met with him and said, please, when you're out there recruiting, find people.
And he's offered to help. I'll loop back with him.
Well,
Remind him they were struggling to get people.
I like your idea, Tim, but it's like Jennifer says,
It's
we have
probably
this
gonna apply.
333 issue.
But unfortunately, it's not exclusive to the missions. The nonprofits themselves are having a lot of trouble. Very hard.
You think these people are burned out?
I think they got used to it, I think it's personal, I think
But
it's.
nonprofits can, I mean, you can have board meetings that are not in person.
Oh, yeah, we have lots of flexibility.
So what do you think the issue is?
It's a great question.
Work-life balance.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And people, to your point earlier, got used to seeing how rational hybrid is, right? Like being able to balance your own personal responsibilities with your desire to serve publicly makes a lot of sense to think just about anyone. And so this imposed rule that doesn't offer a lot of flexibility really impedes recruitment, right? When people know, oh, like transportation, I have to get here and be here for about 2 hours. And then if I'm on another one, it's another 1.5 there too. And they're usually in the evening. So that makes it very difficult if you have these responsibilities. That's unfortunately really hard to work around. I'm sorry I don't have any solutions, but it's just a really tough position to be in.
Yeah, I think.
Well, and the sad part is that at the end of the day, like last thing, we end up canceling meetings. So it's not that we don't have residents or Arlingtonians, it's just that it's not gonna happen. So
Well, when you're out and about recruiting people, tell them this is a great committee.
Yeah.
go ahead.
Make them come here as opposed to anywhere else.
What were you gonna say?
Did you got a ruling from county attorney that said they had checked with somebody and the state was saying that you couldn't do it that way, or
Which way?
that you couldn't do
I mean-
hybrid meetings, or that?
Yes. We can do hybrid, in fact, we are required to do hybrid meetings, as Caitlin said, but the quorum has to be in person. So that's where the rub comes in. And for many of our commissions that have subcommittees, they also have to have an in-person quorum. So if it's a subcommittee of the whole, the way it used to be is if you had, like, the Housing Commission has a bricks and mortar subcommittee, and so whoever wanted to show up could. But now if a full quorum of the commission doesn't show up at that, they have to cancel. So it's made it actually more restrictive rather than less.
Recruit.
Yeah.
A couple of other things. This one's pretty minor, but apparently there is a unveiling or ribbon cutting kind of event
Oh, yeah.
on the 12th. For the
At 3 to
new-
6.
new excitement.
Go for
So
downstairs.
they reached out they were hoping to get kind of a rep from each commission.
Well, they sent a general email to all the commissioners.
Okay, good, yeah. So if you end up going, and I can make you the exact reps in case I can't make it. So,
The lobby.
Unveiling.
I'm sorry, when?
the
April
12th,
12th.
from 3 to
I'll probably
next
be there.
Wednesday.
But
3 to 6.
what time is it?
Yeah.
There's 6 really.
Yeah.
The new library is gorgeous. If you
Looks
haven't been
cool.
there.
Yeah.
Whole lobby.
Yeah, really nice.
Last item, a little bit of a sad one. Many of you remember Larry Withers, who was a member of the committee for many,
Oh,
many years,
geez.
and I learned that he passed away recently.
Oh,
Just wanted to
That's
mention
the
that,
second
folks
member
who
that
remember
passed away,
him,
right?
Mhm.
recognize the number of years that he served on.
And on the Housing
Thank
Commission,
you
and he
for
was
the
on the
work.
Board of AHC. He was a very engaged
Yeah.
person.
I
Really
heard about
nice
it on
man.
AHC.
He missed. I think he was served on this commission until about 2019, I think.
that feels about right.
Because he was chair when you came on, I think. It was Mary Claire, okay. Yeah, Larry was chair for many years.
Yeah, he was the chair, and then Claire was the chair for many years. That's too bad. He was a good guy.
Larry did a lot of good stuff for this commission in particular.
Larry, do you have an address or something?
I can probably get one.
Okay.
I
I'll just send a
can-
card.
Well, I've got, do we have?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone that we're going to be, normally we do our bus tour in April, but this year we'll be doing our bus tour in May. And we're really excited for the organizations that we scheduled for this year. I think you're going to enjoy it. And I'll give you a quick overview of the programs we'll be visiting. So we talked a little bit about earlier, but we're going to be visiting the HC Project Discovery Program. And it's going to be specifically at the Gates of Ballston Community Center. So that's going to be the first stop. Then we're going to be heading over to Culpeper Garden, where we will be meeting with representatives from both Arlington Neighborhood Village and Arlington Retirement Housing Corporation. And they're going to be talking to us and demonstrating how their programs are complementary to one another, and they support residents at Culpeper Garden in a collaborative way. So that's pretty exciting as well. And then finally, we'll be doing a tour of the new project, The Cadence, which was partially funded with CDBG and home funds. And that is also in the Buckingham neighborhood. So it's going to be a pretty the bus tour we won't be going very far. It's all kind of in the same neighborhood, but it'll be cool to see some of those various projects. So we're really looking forward to it. So make sure you mark your calendars, plan to attend. The bus tour is going to start at 6 o'clock. It's going to leave from Bosman and we'll be meeting out by the flagpoles in the between the lobby and AMC, and we'll be ending at the regular time at 8 o'clock.
May 3rd.
May 3rd, so instead of our regularly scheduled next month meeting.
Yep.
This is our first in person. No, we did in person last year.
For
Yeah, the 20 and 21 week.
All right, and I don't have anything else to report. I guess the next are any member reports. All right.
That means we wrap up then, right?
Yep.
to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, Caitlin. Have fun at Disney World.
Disney World, like Disney World.
It's spring break.
Thank you.
Spring break.
I want to go to Disney World.
Yeah, I've actually been trying to figure out how to get out of.
It's surprisingly amazing. Like, it's really clean and they do a nice job, I gotta say.
I want to get one of those VIP passes.
Yeah, if you do that fast.
Apparently you
It's
have
on
to.
everybody.
Yeah.